Mondo Davison, my dear friend, welcome to the show.
Brian, man, good to be here, man. Thank you for having me, good sir.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little different than some of the other ones that I've done, but your story is incredible. We're going to dive into that in a minute here. But before we do that, I have to read my disclosure. And here it is. eWealth Partners is an investment advisor registered with the SEC. The information in this podcast is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration the listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific, individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. Determine what strategies or investments may be suitable for you and consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a final decision. All right, Mondo. You talk about a heavenly dream state. Let's start there, and then I want you to share your entrepreneurial story because it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, man, I would say in the, 10 plus years as an entrepreneur, there was just a ton of hustle, grit, grind, stress, just stuff all over the place. And, as entrepreneurs, I know we're trying to get to this future version of ourselves, rather that's more money, more impact, more time with the family, more something. But I found that all those things are like of the world, right? Like they're
Yeah.
good, but they're still of the world. And in my journey, like I've just experienced like this heavenly dream state, this peace, this just way of walking through the world, like a blessing from God that just seems like otherworldly or transcendent. And I just feel like there are like a lot of entrepreneurs or humans who are chasing these things in the world, but really like it's this heavenly dream state, this just waking up and just being at peace all day that some people are actually seeking. And I'm doing my best to be a voice to guide people towards that, man.
Okay, well, that's super interesting because I do think that, yes, it is hard not to be consumed by this world, on this earthly world. And being a man of faith, heaven is where we want to end up and where we want to lead those, that are important to us and the family and friends and the peers. So we're going to dive more into that, but let's actually just talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. And we've known each other, what, for 5, 6 years, and it's been
Yeah.
fascinating to see what has happened over these last 5 years. It's been pretty powerful to watch. But just talk me through it just as, your entrepreneurial journey and then as, kind of, just what this transformation has looked like and what you've experienced over these last, what, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, I had the traditional tech was a big thing in 2010, or like apps were a big thing, kind of like how AI is now. Like everybody's like, oh, like let me get into the game for AI. And I would say in 2010, it was the same for like app development. And so I had no experience in tech. And just as like a creative, I was like, oh, there's so many opportunities in tech. Like let me get
Oh,
into this space. Kind of just stumbled into it. And I didn't have a programming background. I was just like the quote unquote visionary, right? Like, let's
yeah.
create cool things. And for over a decade, I just like dedicated my whole life to having impact in tech outside of being a dad. And it's just a lot, right? Like one being a black man in tech early on in Minnesota, there were very few of us. So I like built this identity as the black tech guy, like trying to inspire more people that look like me to go into the space.
Oh,
But then like a lot of the challenges and barriers around like raising funds or building a team or even best practices in the industry that were like foreign to me, there's just a lot of roadblocks. But have the resilient story, right? Like endure,
mm-hmm.
keep going. And so I was all for that lived experience. And in 2022, God was like, psych, like I'm calling you to do or become something else. And I was okay with that because around that time, I felt like we cracked the code in tech, like not on a financial or like user base metric, but just as like a creative of like trying to build the perfect product, I feel like we like landed the perfect product in education is what we were hyper focused on, elementary education. But when that happened, Brian, I was like, oh man, like the rest of this experience just didn't really feel fun. Like cracking the code had happened, and so the rest of it was like business and sales and P&Ls and all those things. And like that didn't really like resonate with me because like, I felt
Hmm.
like I we got to the point where we did the impossible thing, or at least the thing that I was seeking. And so God was
Describe
like,
that feeling a bit. Yeah, I think you're about to do that, but like, what was the
yeah,
actual feeling that you felt?
it's like uh I imagine when someone is working really hard to like reach a certain point in a job, like, oh, I've been trying to get this VP of marketing, or I've been trying to become president or CEO
Hmm.
for so long, and then they land in that spot and they're like, huh, this is it? Right? Like that fulfilling joy or that long-standing joy isn't really there like they thought it would be. And so I just experienced that as an entrepreneur. And one of the challenges for me was I had already done the work a 9 to 5 job, and I knew that wasn't fulfilling. And so then to be an entrepreneur and go through this arc, because that's kind of like the final stage, like, yo, leave your job, become an entrepreneur, and like everything's gonna be great. But to like get through that arc and like hit this moment and kind of feel like, man, this feels like kind of the job piece, like it's the same thing. Is there more? Right? Is there something else to this lived experience? And so I felt that. And I was just like, yo, God, if there's a better story, and that's literally the language I use. If there's a better story than Mondo go build a unicorn startup and, sell for $1 billion+ and have money to invest back into the community, like all those good things, like mentally, physically, spiritually, I knew those things were possible, but it still just didn't feel like the best story for my life. And so I was like, all right, God, I can't imagine outside of that. And I was like, give me something. And God was like, oh, say less. And called me to surrender everything, right? Like the only way that I could give you this other story is you have to fully surrender your home, car, clothes, business, bank accounts, all the stuff, and have no idea for how long or what you're going to do, but just have faith and give it away. And so I went through that journey for the last 4 years at this point. And yeah, you've seen it all the way through. So like from the outside looking in, like your vision or how you saw me navigating it may be different than how I saw myself, but it was quite the journey.
Yeah, and that's why I say it was transformational. And maybe back up before pausing and asking God, did you not have those same questions to God? We'll say in the heights of the black tech guy side of it, like, or like what role or what relationship
Right.
with your
Yeah.
faith was what was that like? Was it something there? Was it empty? Was it maybe that a reason of like just the feelings around it of t just talk me through that relationship with God in those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, that is right. Fast forward now,
Hmm.
hindsight's 2020, right? And I recognize what I was missing. So I was the type of guy who had belief in God, this universal figure, this
Yeah,
entity, this thing of all things being connected. But I didn't have a relationship with the Son of God. Literally, I
sure.
wouldn't even say Jesus out loud back then. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons for that we could unpack or not. But what I recognize, like through my journey, was because I had this unwavering belief that I could do or be anything. Like I don't struggle with
Ah,
doubt, like God's like, well, you can believe in all the things and you can conquer the world if you want, but you don't believe in my son. And so that 4 year walk was literally like doing my best to walk hand in hand in a apostle like way. Like I don't want to amp it up. Like it was like this easy experience. It was just getting up and being like, God, I'm gonna follow you every day. And then by year, maybe 2.5, I was like, oh, you're calling me to follow your son. So then it was like reading the word and building a relationship with Jesus specifically. And it was quite the story arc, but right, it led to, what I call Jesus peace or this heavenly dream state, this experience that I had that like God will inevitably step in and solve the problem or part the Red Sea or do something miraculous in a
Hmm.
way that I always feel safe. I just always feel covered. And part of my role in the story is to be a leader and walk through this life modeling that character and
Hmm.
knowing that there's going to be many seasons potentially where things look dire or it looks like there's no way out. And I'm just called to be the voice to be like, yo, pause and pivot towards Christ. It's going to be okay. And in the end, like God delivers. And then those humans, whoever is part of the squad doing the thing, their faith enhances. They're like, dang, like it actually did work out. And I had no idea how, but like God stepped in. And so somehow, some way, I feel like God's calling me to be a steward of that.
So, and how was your faith enhanced when you surrendered it all? Like I witnessed it, and like it was uncanny just to kind of like to witness that, to just really in as a friend, just it did seem like you were always at peace. But was that true? Like when you surrendered, was it scary? Did you wrestle with God? Did like I don't know how just was that
Yeah.
tough or
So, like, kind of going back to the parent piece, I had and have an amazing dad, an amazing relationship with my pops. And his presence and his support and just all the things that he did to show up for me, like, built me into this character that I am today, just full of life, full of joy, and just the ability to, like, I don't know, have the confidence and courage to go do anything. So I have a daughter who's now 19, but at the time she was turning 16, 15, 16. And my biggest challenge was not being able to be a breadwinner, a financial
sure.
supporter of my daughter, and
Yeah.
having to choose Christ over family, right? And
Yeah.
so that was like super hard. But like that's the faith piece. If I truly believe that God is going to deliver my dad or uncle or cousins or her mom or like somebody's going to step in, the blessings are going to be there. I just have to fully surrender. But it was extremely challenging. And, there's a lot of tears in there, but it was the most, it was the only lived experience that I could have done that I didn't fully, I wouldn't say fully. I knew I didn't have control of it.
Ah,
Right. So it's like if you're the Incredible Hulk and you're like, if I get more mad, I get more powerful and I can lift up anything, right? And so
yeah.
like I felt that like as a confident person, if there's a challenge, I can find more information, like get stronger and like go jump over that hurdle or pick up that boulder. But like this was the opposite. It was in these times of distress, it was like surrender more, pray more, lean into your relationship with God more. And it was so counterintuitive, but it was me exercising a piece of my spirit that had never been exercised because every time I had a challenge, I felt like it was my responsibility to go solve it. And so imagine just like living a life that way and having all the tools to go do that and God saying like son, this whole time I've been working through you. It wasn't your strength in the first place. I gave it to you. And so I'm asking you to surrender to like let me work around you and allow you to see how peaceful this experience can be if we like do this thing as a duo or a
Yeah.
like tag team, right? And so
Yeah.
it's challenging, but I love it.
Yeah, you talk about like s- so often we have so much anxiety in the unknown, and in that moment you had so much peace in the unknown. I think even just kind of with the audience being entrepreneurs and business owners, like I think there can be so much anxiety in running a business, starting a business, and that can just overcome you if, just that unknown, the uncertainty, it can just be paralyzing. And I think that just as entrepreneurs, like that same mindset to know that there's peace in the unknown. And again, as a man of faith, just knowing like a lot of the business stuff is the earthly things, right? And to surrender that to God's will, I think is so amazing. But the reality is, it's like businesses are hard and they're stressful and there's anxiety. And I just think it's really incredible, just and beautiful to see, like, again, witnessing you kind of go through that transformation and just always coming in and just being at peace. And it was very obvious, and I know you walked a ton, just kind of walking with God. And it was cool to see that unfold. Well, let's back up a little bit here. So, was it your dad, or who was it that inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely my pops, but not as a model as if he was an entrepreneur, but because he was a provider and his words were always be better than me, son.
Ah,
Right? And so like just imagine so like I didn't have to work in high school. My dad was like in high school it was basketball, it was sports, and
mm-hmm,
he was like, yo, I had to start working at I think 14 and he
mm-hmm,
didn't have the same privileges and so he
mm-hmm,
was like, as your dad, I want to ensure that you have all the opportunity to live out your dreams.
mm-hmm.
And there's something about the privileges that I knew that I had, right? Like intellectually, I was good. Athletically, things came natural. My home life was great. I was loved. I have amazing brothers and friends. And I looked at it as there is no excuse for me to not be successful.
Okay.
So, what does that look like? Right. And so, like, when my hoop dreams didn't manifest,
Yeah.
I just knew that there had to be something else or more than, and I'm not minimizing someone who has a 9 to 5 job because that was my dad. And without
Yeah.
him, I wouldn't have been able to stand on his shoulders. But I knew that I had to do or be more than that because I had him as an anchor. And so me stepping into entrepreneurship was a call to action out of honoring him and being like, yo, if you did all these things for me, if you removed all these barriers, then I have to go build something that is dope that you can be proud of. And so, like, that was the fuel for a long time until God said, like, I need it to be more than that. I need you to honor me through it. Right. And so, like, I want to tie this back to part of our last conversation because this is something that I recognize and I made sure that I had to start saying out loud was because I had such strong family support, because I had my dad and my
Yeah.
uncles and just all these people around me, my role in the story, mine's to do was to surrender everything. That doesn't necessarily mean that anybody else that I talk to is supposed to do that, right? Like I'm just the
Mm-hmm.
extreme version of it. And so when I go and share this message of surrender to others, it might be just one thing, right? It
Mm-hmm.
might be surrendering your relationship with your second in command or surrendering your relationship with alcohol or surrendering
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with gambling or like surrendering your relationship with your spouse because you know that's not what God is calling you to do. I don't know, right? Like, but these things,
Mm-hmm.
this hard choice that you just absolutely know you have to make, but
Mm-hmm.
out of fear, kind of to your point of the unknown, you're unwilling to make that choice and like choosing to be like, all right, God, I have no idea what the outcome of this is, but I know in my heart this is what you want me to do. Like me encouraging humans to do that and now being a model of that to be like, hey, like I surrendered everything. I made it out okay. Actually, it was way more glorious, right? Like so like do the thing as well. It's just key in the language that I use these days.
Yeah. I think what you said too with your dad is like the comfort and the stability is what helps others grow too. And I
Yeah.
think as a business owner and entrepreneur, like we want to provide that to our employees, right?
Hmm.
We want to hire them. We want to employ them. We want them to grow in their careers, right? So that hopefully provides stability in their life where they can shine. Like there's some commonalities I kind of see within that. But yeah, like we would never diminish the 9 to 5. I think the entrepreneur piece of it, like there's just again going back to that unknown and kind of being able to surrender. What are some things that you believe shape you as an entrepreneur or should shape other entrepreneurs? Like what holds true with that?
Yeah, I would. One of the things that I anchored on as an entrepreneur, even before God stepped in, was I always put Cadence first, and Cadence is my daughter.
Yeah.
And so for me, it made no sense to say, I built this amazing startup. We have a million users. We are about to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. And my relationship with my daughter is subpar.
Yeah.
Like that just seems like a whack story to me,
Yeah.
right? And so, so much so that I think we were talking about this before. There was a time when my daughter got into photography, I think eighth grade. Like every other Friday, I would tell her, you don't have school, or we would plan not to have school, and we would just go explore the city and like go shoot photography, right? It was my way of showing her you're way more important than any business meeting, anything that I'm creating. I'm always going to be there, or like every game, every conference, everything. Like I was always present. And so like I reflect on like stories, right? And just like see how young people grow into themselves. And a lot of the times they tell a story of like how mom or dad wasn't there or how mom or dad didn't see
Hmm.
them. And
Hmm.
sometimes it's like a set of circumstances that are out of our control as
Yeah.
parents, but other times it's a choice.
Yeah.
And so, like, I look at you, right? Like, as an entrepreneur, serving so many different humans, but also like having a huge family, right? And like, I
Hmm.
just hear you talk about how much you love your family and how much you want to show up. And so, like I want to honor you to be like, yo, like Brian, like you do such a good job. I have one kid. You have how many?
S 7 coming in July. Seventh coming in
Yeah,
July.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like just like you being an honorable dad and husband and like I'm looking like, yo, me surrendering everything made sense for me because I have one kid and all this support. Brian's story is going to be different, right? Brian may not be called to surrender all these things. He has 7 kids and a wife to take care of. But
Hmm.
what does it look like for him to like show up for his family? And so no matter what, man, like the thing that I feel like I do different is at the core of my being is being a good dad. And that looks like presence. Like, I mean, anchor on that, like being a present dad. So even after I surrendered everything, I was still present. I was like, hey, daughter, I can't take you out. We can't go shopping. We can't do the thing, but I'm here. We cracking jokes. We going on walks. We like
Hmm.
doing the things. And so, yeah, man, presence is key.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before, and I was thinking more about it, and I was thinking more like it's good for our employees to witness who we are at home as a
Mm,
spouse, as a father, and I would get, back, I felt like just what 3, 4 years ago, if your business isn't doing well, it's always the company culture, right? Like culture is solved by everything, which I think there's definitely truth in that. And I believe in strong company culture, but I think the easiest way to have strong culture is show up. Who you are at home should be who you are at work in many ways, and vice versa. And to show that like yeah, our jobs are important. My work is important. The business is important, but not as important as my family. And there's going to be
yeah.
sacrifices where you're not going to be able to make every kid's activity and whatnot. and the other way around. But I don't know, when we were talking about that, I was like, you know what? Without it knowing it, and it's never been necessarily said, but like your employees are watching who you are. They're watching who
Yeah.
you are as a father, as a spouse, as a friend. And so, I think to strong company culture really comes back to who you are, outside of that 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I know
want,
you like
yeah,
you bring a lot of whenever you talk, you sound like a dad in the best
yeah,
way,
yeah.
right? Like
Got some dad
I'm
jokes
just
too.
yeah, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, yo, like that, like you make me feel comfortable. I'm like, oh, okay, well, like this other dad is showing up and he cares for his family in a similar way that I do. I'm going to trust him with his knowledge because
Hmm.
he's a man of God or he's a man of faith and like he
Hmm.
takes care of his family and like that holds a lot of weight for me. So shout out to you.
Yeah. I want to hit on that because we've had other conversations about being a dope dad. And
Mm,
honestly, I think this is something people need to hear you speak. And I think like just what does that mean to be a dope dad and being a dope entrepreneurial dad? What comes to
yeah.
mind? Because I think that is something that we should strive as entrepreneurs is also be this dope entrepreneurial dad. Like what does that look like? Let's first define when you say that, like what does that mean?
Did something super cool where I feel like I can go conquer the world, right? Like if ever I go do something, like I'm always gonna come out on top. But God like sent me cadence. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a joke or if we're playing a game or whatever. Like she somehow always gets the best of me in a thing. And we laugh about it all
Uh,
the time. But there's so much fun and joy in like that kind of twin like relationship. And I I know Cadence actually sent me a text last week or a week and a half ago before she came back from school because she's goes to school down in Texas. And the text said something to the fact of like, in every life forever, I would always want you to be my dad.
hmm,
And like it was just out of the blue and like it just really warmed my heart because like that was just an example of like I'm a dope dad because to her she just loves that I am her dad. Like she could have any dad in the world, but like she's
hmm,
just grateful that I am her dad. And for a while it was because I could get her all the things because, I was financially stable to like spoil her. But then when that switched, right, I had to express other qualities. I had to write her certain notes or letters to show my appreciation. I had to show up differently. I know you and I talked about consequences. Like being a
yeah,
dope dad doesn't mean just allowing your kid to just go run amok. Like
hmm,
there's very like practical ways where I'm like, that's not okay. We're not going to do that. Like, here's a hard line. And then
hmm,
down the line, she appreciates it. And she also then uses that wisdom with some of her friends, right?
hmm.
Like being able to equip her with the tools or the words or the lessons so then she can be a vessel for her friends. And now she's just like, oh, dad, like I see what's happening around me, right? I noticed the things that you kind of guided me away from. And like, thank you for doing that. And now I can help out my teammate or my friend. And yeah, like I feel like a dope dad because of how she's showing up in the world.
What you said hit. You said she gets the best of me. And I think that just messaging is pretty powerful. And the best of me, it can be some great dad jokes and having fun, but like it's also like kind of as we talked in a previous conversation about like guiding them with right and wrong. And I think that is true and something that we can reflect on as parents and as spouses is are they getting the best of you? Right. And that's
Yeah.
hard to do, right? Let's be, this is reality too. Like it's hard to give everyone your best all the time.
Yeah.
But I just love how you stated that. She gets the best of me, right? And probably loves
And I,
you in our worst of us too.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, she was such, even when I reflect on being the person who was supposed to be super successful and do all the things in the family, and then to like experience last place is the language that I use. And her, at 15, 16, 17, defending me in her own spaces, right? Because,
Mm,
there are people around that would then be like, yo, what's up with your dad? Or these things happening, and her defending me and sharing it with me, but then me also saying like, yo, daughter, you don't have to, right?
mm,
Like, and teaching that lesson, like what other people think of you is none of your business, right? Like people
mm.
are going to say what they're going to say. And so like there were just so many lessons in that. And now when she shows up in the world, she doesn't get caught up in the gossip as much as maybe she would have, because she saw how I responded when people around me weren't saying the best words. And I'm just like, yo, that's okay. That noise is always going to be there. And so just being a model for her, uh, it just,
Yeah,
I'm
and
still, I'm still happy with, yeah.
I think it's important to show our children our strength, right? And to say like, I hear that, I appreciate you defending me, but like that's we know that's not true. And just to show like, I'm sure it has impact, but just to be like, no, like what others are saying and what others view is not important, right? And it's kind of going back to kind of surrendering to God. So that's just kind of just the fact that to get a text and just these messages from your daughter just really loving you and loving who you are and just the role that you've played even at an early age is really beautiful to see. I want to go a little bit not off topic but just in our conversations in the past and part of the group that we're in C9. You have like this, I'll just call it God gifted talent of not only listening, but you listen so differently than others. You
Mm,
hear things differently. We we'll go around and what, there's nine, 10 of us in the room, and you'll pull things out that nobody else heard, but they're true. And
mm.
how does that happen? And I
Yeah.
guess this is maybe unexplainable, but like it's just a gift from God. But like that is, it's so cool when when we're having conversations and what you're able to pull out is something that's just almost so obvious that we didn't uncover. But
Hmm.
I don't know. Have you?
Yeah, I would so I'm gonna use like some examples in the best parts of their life. I want to make sure I emphasize the best parts of their life. Like Kanye was a great producer, but
Hmm.
that's because he heard the music differently. Like he heard
Hmm.
sounds differently, but I feel like it was a gift from God. Or like Dr. Dre, like heard
Hmm.
things differently. Quincy Jones heard things differently. And so for some reason, like I do believe that God gave me this gift to just hear story differently. Like I can't
Hmm.
go in and produce, some random sounds and make them sound good. But when I listen to story, I'm like, how does this or could this fit in like a divine story? And
Hmm.
so, like, where everyone else may be focusing on an economic outcome or a worldly outcome, I'm really listening to be like, what is God calling me to hear to then say something out loud that's going to make that person pause and pivot toward Christ potentially.
Sure.
And so, like, it's a very like one track mind of
Hmm.
like, I'm in the room to say something valuable, but my North Star is Christ, right? Like I
Yeah.
can be in a room of business people and I'm going to say something that is going to add value to the business, but it's going to come from the spirit of love. And
Yeah.
I don't know, somehow it just helps me hear things differently because that's my focus. But I imagine like if someone is a marketer or if someone is the finance person or if someone like they hear the story through like their expertise. And yeah, I just just hear it through God's ears, I guess. And I don't want to say that in like I just want to be humble with how I say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, just God just gave me, he tuned my ears to hear things that he wants me to hear.
I think you would be such a gift and valuable member to boards, for-profit
Mm,
businesses, nonprofits on that piece of it. Because I think that's important, right? And even there's many religions, right? There's many faiths out there, but the who Jesus Christ was and is and who we strive to be, like if those elements can come out through business and through nonprofit
mm.
is more, good for the world type of thing, right? And so, yeah, that's just my shout out to you that like any of those with businesses or on a board, like if you're open to it,
Yeah.
Mondo, I think you would be such a great addition to
Yeah. I actually love that idea. I mean, and I think that's where when I anchor on the language, lead with love, it allows people who are of different religion or how they view the world to still like welcome me into the space because like
yeah.
love is love is love. And I love the idea of being dropped into environments where love may not be priority number one. Love might be 10 on the list. And like
Hmm.
kind of just send me in there. And over time, like I'll just drop these seeds and the room will start to shift. And so I actually have been asking God, like, what environment are you going to drop me in to do that? Because like I
Yeah.
love being that person, being that
Yeah.
outlier that's just like, man, this dude came in and disrupted things, but he disrupted things for the purpose of love. And like, that'd just be a great story. So any
Yeah.
boards out there, hit me up.
Yeah. Well, leading with love, but like, and let's also remember you are an entrepreneur. You started companies. You understand,
Yeah.
the mechanics of business. So like that stuff is, you're wise on
Yeah.
that side of it too. But I just think that angle is probably angles most boards or even, most teams don't always get. I want to hear how you measure or how maybe an entrepreneur should measure wealth or success.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll like probably tie a bow on where we started because I do believe that there is something about this heavenly dream state, right? And so, I'm a big fan of just like symbolism and like the hero's journey or the hero's arc. And like when they get to that crisis and they hit the bottom and they like potentially transform into something else, right? Or like, the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. Like I do believe that in crisis, that's where Christ is, if you want it to
Mhm.
be. And then like we can be reborn through him. And when we do that, when we experience those challenging moments and lean on him, I do think we start to experience that heavenly dream state where it's no longer this solo script, right? So I feel like a lot of my life, it was this solo script of Mondo and what Mondo can do or what Mondo should do, or just this solo story of how I'm going to impact the world or the people around me. I believe surrendering that solo script and opting into like this second story where you're one with Christ. And it's no longer just this solo experience. It feels like this duo. It feels like, you have this relationship, right? This vertical relationship
Mhm.
with Christ in a way that he's part of the story that is unfolding in front of you. And that's the heavenly dream state to me. Like, no matter what, no matter how dire, eventually you're going to be resurrected from that experience in a way, right? And so
Love that.
I'm just always at peace. And so,
I love that.
hire me as a speaker or something to come
I
in
was
to
just
the
gonna say,
spot.
like,
Yeah.
uh, how can we work with you? Like, what are you doing? What are you do? I know you've done professional speaking in the past, but like, how can you get in
Yeah.
front of people? How can they work with you?
Yeah. Honestly, man, like aramondo.com, Aramondo. Everything's there. Really, it's just inspiring people to lead with love, whatever that looks like for them. So, It could be your company, it could be your board, it could be a nonprofit organization, but have me come in and be a voice to inspire or exercise that muscle. So love is part of the story.
Yeah, and this those I'm gonna go back to those entrepreneurial dads, just like that just for probably just my phase of life right now, that hits pretty hard of like, okay, who are we and how are we defined? How do we serve our family
Mm.
through our faith? And like I don't think you get that many places, right? Where you have that strong common theme. So I just um and we'll put this all in the show notes and links to your website. Maybe, I haven't done this before to end a podcast. Would you be open to closing us in prayer and
Oh
maybe
yeah,
praying over, saying a prayer for our audience too that are listening, maybe something that they need to hear and just closing us in prayer?
love it. Hmm. Heavenly Father, thank you for just walking with Brian and I on this divine journey. I'm so grateful for him and grateful to have been introduced to his audience on this podcast. And for the audience, I pray that uh, you reveal yourself to them in ways that they haven't seen you before. There is something about the divine spark that is always present right in front of them or right behind them if they pause and repent. I pray that those who are listening right now, who are like, I want to make a change, I want to pivot to something new, I pray that as soon as they make that choice in their heart, in their mind, you reveal yourself to them. And once that happens, God, we know that a different story unfolds. So we honor you, we love you, and we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mondo, you are a true gift from God. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, man. That was dope.